But Stevie, let's get into something very exciting. Springbok squad
Alignment camp.
announcement, or not squad announcement, alignment
Yes.
camp. Sorry, alignment camp.
It's very important
First
to get
of
the
all,
terminology right.
before we get in, I think some notable exclusions. Let's start with Dion Fourie, the only World Cup winner essentially to be left out. Is it the end of his career? Is that what his exclusion is? You'd assume so.
Yeah. So the main thing is an alignment squad. So, a lot of people are now sort of assuming that these are basically like this is, the next bunch of Springboks, and if you're not part of the squad, you can't be a block, which is not the case. We've seen players be included in the real squads after not being part of alignment camps and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, this is a squad of players who've gone down to have an alignment camp and to basically be told what it means to be a Springbok, what the culture is, what you need to do, what your expectations are and stuff like that, and what the plan is going to be for the next however many years. These camps used to happen 2-3 times before the first camp. There used to be sessions held overseas. That's what Felix Jones used to do. He used to hold sort of similar camps and online camps with overseas-based players. So the whole point of alignment is to basically say, right, this is the pathway for the box, and this is how you're going to fit into it if you want to be part of it. So whilst technically it doesn't mean that Dion Fourie is not involved, I don't see why he'd be left out if there was plans to use him again. My gut says this is the end for him. I personally think I think why come back? You were the oldest Springbok of all time.
What a way to go out.
Yeah, you ended up captaining them in the final minutes in the World Cup final. After 78 minutes at hooker.
What minute did he come on? What minute did he come on in the final?
He did 70, like
second minute of a World Cup final, goes on to not only win the game but ends as captain.
Yeah.
And wins the World Cup with the Springboks. He's like, what? He's turning 37 this year. I don't think we're taking a 40-year-old.
The rugby fairy tale of all time. It's up there with Donald coming from a fishing trip and winning the World Cup for New Zealand.
Yeah, true. True with the triple XS shirt.
Yeah,
But I think we saw last season essentially in World Cup year. We're not giving out debuts, but there was only one debut giving out in 2023, and that was Jean Klein. Other than that, every single person had at least had a cap beforehand. So I think particularly for this Portugal game, I think it's highly likely that there are at least 5 of these players, uncapped players, who will get given a shot. And
controversially,
some notable mentions. Yeah,
Sacha Mngomezulu is English qualified. Are we going to do that classic have a cap?
And I think, we saw him included 2 seasons ago. He's barely, he doesn't make the best Stormers side at the moment.
I don't think he makes the best Stormers 23, by the way, not just the 15. He doesn't make the best Stormers 23.
That's tough.
Ahead of who?
Ahead of who?
Ahead of who?
You, as a utility back, bro. You can play 10, 15, 12.
Yeah.
He played wing in the winning URC season. Kicks at 60 meters. Let's not digress.
Okay, so Dan Duplessis doesn't make your best 23.
Hey?
So I'd say for me, it's Dan Duplessis. You got to put Dan Duplessis back into that squad. We want now back into that squad.
Yeah, he is quality. Yeah, but that's not the conversation. I think the point is that he's not winning. Okay, take him versus Hachiva Dlamini.
Yeah.
He is winning Man of the Match awards, Dlamini.
Yeah.
He has won, I think, 3 this season, 2 if not 3, versus Mngomezulu, who is been on and off playing. But we saw Mngomezulu already included in a camp previously. Even the likes of Suleiman Hartenberg hasn't been starting a lot, also included in this camp. I think it's just a very long-term goal. I think both of them aren't nearly at a point where they can play Springbok rugby. I don't think they haven't matured yet physically as well. They're both very young, like 21, 22 years old. They are like learning their craft at the Stormers in a very creative environment, which is ideal. But I think, as you say, it's just about. I don't think they'll give him a cap personally. I'll be surprised if they do. Maybe if they are genuinely worried about the England threat, then they will. But I don't see Mngomezulu going to England. Like, surely not.
Well,
Like
so
that,
there was a rumor that we were
he'd be
talking about
pretty
on the group.
outcast.
Yeah, so the rumor on the group was that apparently he's not particularly happy with the Stormers because he feels he needs game time. He feels that he's been around because he made his debut about 2 seasons ago now, so he's into his 3rd season. And I remember interviewing him, and he said very much, he wants to learn his keep. He wants this before last season, so the season before last. Yeah, so this was 2022, end of 2022 when I interviewed him and spoke to him, and he said it was very much, he wants to learn, and he wants to learn from him, Liebach and the Willemse. Would love to play with them and learn from these guys. But fast forward, we're now, he'll be 2 years later in sort of the off season now, and I think he now feels that apparently now feels that he's now at a stage of his career where he needs to be starting. And he's not wrong, actually. He's now 23, I think he's 22 or 23 this year. He needs to be playing quite regularly. And he's also not playing a lot of 10, which is, where he wants to play. So, I'd be very interested to see if he is looking to move, where does he look at? And I think that, there could be that sort of option. If a Premiership side suddenly goes and says, well, we'll take you, then maybe that England prospect does come onto the line. I don't think South African players ever dream, none of them dream of playing for another country. Ron Ackerman, for example, who has actually signed a statement with Gloucester, he was, quite adamant about the fact that he wanted to play for the Boks. Jean Claes, it was a dream come true to be able to come back and play for the Boks.
Yes.
So I'd be very surprised if it happens, but I'll be very interested to see what happens in the next 6 months, because I think he is at a point where he needs to decide, is he going to be a bit part player for the Stormers, or can he dislodge a Liebach at 10? Can he dislodge a Dan du Plessis and a Willemse at 12 or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, it's always tough for fly-offs. We've seen him play mostly fly-off and a bit of 12. And it's a classic. There's only he needs to figure out, a bit like Damien Willemse. So we didn't know his best position. He made 15 his position, and he can play 10. He can play 12 if needed.
I love him at 12.
He made 15 his position. But I think the point is that Mngomezulu needs to, I think, also kind of grow that identity. And I think what Willemse was afforded at the Stormers was to play in all those different positions with a little.
He was playing
at a level that.
I think that's the main thing. He was playing.
He was playing, but I mean, I think he's still young, bro. I think he's still got time. I feel like leaving now. I don't see that many pros. I mean.
The problem is, if a Lions, for example, Lions go to him and say, you will be our starting 10, basically. Does he go, this is now a chance for me, or a Sharks goes and says, we'll make you our starting 10, basically. And the Stormers can't give him those sort of guarantees. I don't think he will leave, but it will be an interesting prospect. And to be fair, I almost want to start seeing these kind of conversations, because I feel that I would love to see rugby become a bit more like football when it comes to like transfers and stuff like that. And that's why the Sharks thing, whilst it's not worked, has been quite fun in watching these mega transfers, these mega moves. And I want to see more of it. I always say, if there was one rule you could change, one thing about rugby in the world, what could you change? Mine would be a rugby transfer season, like a window. Right. Like football. I want deadline day signings. I want Oaks fighting out for players and stuff like that, because I think that in the professional era, I think that we could be seeing some really cool, interesting moves, and I'd like to see more of them.
Even imagine a varsity cup auction. How good would that be for the following season?
I guess it's awkward when the guy that's doing like Wits Med gets sent to a varsity that doesn't have medicine, but I mean.
Exactly.
You imagine for medicine, you get sent down to Rose, like, well, the best we've got is pharmacy, so go make some pills.
To be fair, I don't think anyone pursuing rugby free will go to Rhodes. But I think another massive inclusion, Stevie, Marnus van der Merwe from the Cheetahs. I'm really excited. Most importantly, because I think it tells other Cheetahs players that you don't have to do your franchise to make a Springbok squad.
Yeah.
And to be noted.
Ironically, I do think I think that this means he goes to a franchise next season.
He will. He will leave.
You know, and as the Lions, who for me have got no hookers, I think he's looking and going, right, well, there it is. But I think it's important. You know, I always keep saying, you know, we need to get the same as the Pumas. You know, the Pumas needs to be a genuine option for you to go and have a rugby career at and not be like a forgotten player. You know, we're seeing Devin Williams come from the Pumas to the Bulls, be absolutely ridiculous, get in our full-time contract at 31 years old. At 31 years old, he's now become a mainstay player in a franchise team. But there are so many good players that are around the country, and you need the Cheetahs to be a powerhouse, but you need it to be a genuine pipeline into the box. On a side note, and I think that's something I think I'd like to get into a bit more depth next week because I want to do a bit of a research about it. Boerland stealing Harvey's Fury from the Cheetahs is a wild move. A non-Currie Cup First Division side, Premiership Division side, taking a EPCR coach from them is unreal. And Skalkberger is involved in that Boerland board, and there's some very other interesting directors on there. So I think that's something we'll have to pencil in for next week. I'll be very interested to see what's the plan for Boerland Rugby down there. And I believe that there's a Matsepe and Johan Rupert funding involved as well. So it'll be very interesting to see what the plans are for Boerland Rugby.
Wow. Okay, that could be crazy. I mean, to add on to kind of, you know, while we're on crazy ideas for rugby, not crazy, but this should also be a thing. Bring back the relegation battle. Remember when the Lions and Kings had to play each other for a spot in Super Rugby? I think the Cheetahs are being criminally disrespected by being kept down and out of URC. Time after time.
Replace the Sharks, we're all in agreement.
Well, replace someone, whoever comes last. I think there has to be some sort of jeopardy in this. Genuinely, otherwise, what is Cheetahs franchise meant to aspire to? You know, just be a pipeline driver for the rest of
the Lions Academy.
No, you see, imagine the Griquas hosting a URC game, hosting Leinster. That's what I want to see. I want to see
in Kimberley. Dude.
I want to see them in Kimberley, just Windhoek plastered everywhere, and just Taj Furlong, looking like he just wants to get out of there.
Can you imagine them when the first time they get tackled onto Griqua Park? And they're basically playing on concrete.
They've never experienced ground that hard in their life.
No, or heat like that.
No. But some more, before we move on from the Springboks, I think some other interesting call-ups. I mean, we're looking at the Lucies. We got Philo Ngomede, Cameron Hanekom from the Bulls. I mean, they've had a really, really good season. Ruben van Heerden from the Stormers. He's obviously, him and Salman Murat, both from the Stormers. Salman just coming back from injury. Krobler, Neetling for Share. Apparently just being called up for his personality. I personally think he's a phenomenal scrummer. But, Andre Hugo Venter
is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andre Hugo Venter for me, I think he's talented. I think he's going to be a good player. I think he's about the third, maybe fourth best hooker at the Stormers. Because I think when JJ Cox is fit, I think that he's ahead of Andre Hugo Venter. And as much as I understand that Dweber's had his issues, I think Dweber's actually been playing quite well this season and would almost be more worthy of being part of the Bok clans now than he has in the last couple of years. But it's a bold shot to basically imply that he's being picked because he's marrying Russie's daughter. but all I'm saying is it can't help, eh? It can't hurt to have So listen, father-in-law, do you watch my game? What's this chat? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? If I were to be a Springbok hooker, what would my performance look like?
Yeah, what do I need to do, Coach? What do I need to do?
That must be a horrendous Christmas lunch. Like, you're there, young player, trying to make the box squad. You've got the master of SA Rugby, 5 beers deep, a couple of brandies in, sitting opposite you. You've just bought him a shitty Christmas present, and now you're sitting there going, shit, how am I going to play for this guy in the next 4 years?
Yeah, to be fair, it's a lose-lose for them both. If they Like, I mean, I think he's insane. I agreed. Again, like a lot of these players actually haven't been performing at
Mm,
club level, which is super interesting. Even like Jordan Hendricks, he's been eating bench,
yeah.
but a part of the
But that's why
a
you can
part of the
clearly
squad.
see the form players, like a Netley Bashir, but older form player, Ruben van Heerden, form player versus
Yeah.
this is a player when we know they've got Springbok potential, and this is how we want to try and get them to become Springbok. So I think Andre Hugo Venter hits that bill. Your Hartzenbergs, Hendrickses, Mngomezulu, your Ruan Venters, for example, Jan Hendrik Wessels. There's no way Jan Hendrik Wessels is benching any of our hookers or any of our loose head props, regardless of where you see him as a player. But he's not ahead of Marks, Imanambi, Johan Grabela, probably even potentially Mars van der Merwe, and he's definitely not benching any of the props. But he's a freak of nature, and right, cool. In 2-3 years' time, how do we get him to become international ready?
Last point before we move on. Where does Sanelo Nhambis fit in to the Springboks?
Wherever you want him. Do you want him to come off the bench? Do you want him? He's the answer to the 8-0 split.
The 8-0 split.
The you do a young 7-1.
He's been insane at 10 and left the Sharks. Probably one of the best moves for himself in the Lions that could have happened. Got dropped because of Grant Williams and Hendricks at the Sharks.
And Cameron Wright.
And 9. And Cameron Wright, lest we forget. But goes there as a 9, then becomes a 10 because their star studded 10 is a couple of injuries and not really playing well. Kind of kept Hendricks on the bench. Becomes a goal kicker, who knew? And just one of the bravest characters. But do you think he's there in the 9 jersey or the 10 jersey?
Well,
or do you think it's both? Do you think it's the classic Springbok scenario where it's a utility player?
Literally, I mean, you look at a 7-1, for example, and they said that 7-1 you ideally want a scrum half. There's worse things than having a scrum half that can play a 10 if you wanted him. The funny thing is, this is not the first time he's been part of an alignment squad. He was actually in that Springbok goal versus
in
Springbok
2020.
After COVID. So 4 years later, he went back to the Sharks and couldn't get a game, gone to the Lions, been in red hot form. So Rassie has seen something even before. And to be fair, one thing about this coaching staff is that, and this is why I still I don't back the idea that Diamani doesn't fit the system, because coaching staff have got a player mold. They want a player that can fit this, but they love a player with a party trick. They love a player that's got that one little thing that they can do that's quite special. Kurt Lawrence and his footwork, for example. You've got your Kanya versus Jesse Krill. One who's just a ridiculously good defender. The other one that can throw the wild offload and also very good on the attack. But look at Willie Leroux. Not your best defensive from a tackling perspective, fullback, for example, but plays as a second playmaker and assist tries for fun. So they love a player that's got a slight point of difference, and I think he does. I think he's a player that's like a Grant Williams. You can't predict what he's going to do. He's got that. So I like the fact that he's been included. I don't think he'll probably play, but I tell you what, there are worse options. If Grant Williams is in a side and can be a number 9 and a wing, why can't you have Nhamba as a genuine 10 and 9 on option?
No, 100%. And I mean, we saw how thin we were potentially stretched at that World Cup. Had Liebach gotten injured, we would have been in a hell of a lot of trouble.
Well, we did go for after Clerk minutes at 10 in the World Cup.
True. But I think point being, is he even third in line in that jersey for the Springboks? But I mean, to touch on the Diamani situation, I completely agree. If we think of the best or the most impactful player that everyone speaks of in the Springboks, it's Kwagga Smith. And it's because you don't see other Kwagga Smiths. There's no one like him.
Yeah.
They're not that they're like for like players, but you spoke about that X impact. The Grant Williams, just you don't see that rapid burst of pace from anyone else. We're going to include him because he can just flip a game on its head. Why not get Diamani in? He can play anywhere but around the back trio. He is as physical as anyone. Good, maybe could be better defensively, but with ball in hand, he is super good.
But why aren't they saying, right, Achiever, love your work. This is why you're not going to make the final squad right now.
Well, we don't know that. They could have said that.
No, but why not? But why is he not part of an alignment squad? Why is he not sitting there being told in front of everyone, right, guys, to be a loose forward, this is kind of where we want, stuff like that. And then he knows, because he even said a couple of months ago, he said, he's decided that he needs to be better in the close quarters. He wants to get more involved with rucking and the physical part of you, because he believes that's what's that's why he's not been selected. That's probably exactly why he's not been selected. So I'm surprised they've not included him and brought him in and said, all right, cool, this is what you need to do. And if he goes back and he doesn't do that, you don't select him, fair enough. But I don't understand why you can't look at a player who's just banging every possible door down and doesn't get included. I just that one for me was a big surprise, because I just don't see why. He's still so young as well, got many years ahead of him. It's not worth including him in potential plans.
If you're looking at like the kind of forwards that they've brought up, they all are very physical in nature. Murat, massive. Ruben van Heerden, massive.
Pilo Gomede, for example, wasn't playing 6 months ago, and now he's in the alignment camp. Ruan Venter from the Lions.
Yeah, exactly. But these are massive. They're big boy. They're very physically imposing on the field. So that's clearly what they're going for within that position. And you hope that at least he was communicated with on a one-to-one basis about that.